passion. I will not be able to say it with the same vigor as you would in terms of telling us what you do at Livspace. But what is interesting about him is that I believe that in this lifetime, this generation is going to see all shades of his career. You're going to be a professional at some point of time, you're going to be an entrepreneur at some point of time, you're going to be an investor at some point of time, and maybe there's a fourth thing which I also don't know what it's going to be. But he's already done it. And he's done all the three. And so he's going to tell us a little more about himself. And let's start with how old you are.
Well, I'm in my late 30s. So I didn't get the 35 under 35.
Yeah. He missed it.
I know.
He grew old for it.
With that description, you should actually call my mother, because she still thinks that there's a lot that needs to be done. So going back to a little bit about myself, my name is Auj. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders for Livspace. My co-founder, RK, Ramakant Sharma, many of you guys know, one of the more prolific angel investors in India, was part of the founding team for Myntra. So built an amazing business which, and similar success is being emulated by Zillingo, right? It's outstanding what they've done actually in Southeast Asia. A little bit about Livspace, and it's almost like I call it dudes doing home design, right? So, but if Livspace, I mean, simplistically, it is India's and Southeast Asia's largest interiors, renovation, kitchens, so forth and so on, largest brand and platform experience. While for the consumer, it is actually, a very classic problem. Like I've just bought a home and I'm renovating my home, or I've bought a home and I want to rent it out, so I want to get stuff done in my home. And traditionally, they would actually go to a contractor to get all of this stuff done. Today, you actually have an end-to-end experience called Livspace that you can actually go to and transform your home. So the vision of the company, really, if you see, is real estate transformation. And one day it'll be this, right? So our vision is not really limited by the fact that we've started with consumers and their homes. We feel that any space, any real estate space, for them to live in that space, play in that space, sell in that space, enjoy, work in that space needs to be transformed and to be made useful for its occupants, right?
Sure.
So that's the idea behind the company.
So, coming out of Google, it's a great company to be in. You worked in Quora, you worked in Google. What sort of changed in you in order to become an entrepreneur? It's fun to work in Google, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's not so much fun to do your own startup. There's a lot of hustle.
No, it's funner. It's funner. Yeah.
So how did you sort of make this shift? How did you decide to go from a professional to an entrepreneur?
So look, I come from the era when there was no Android, right? And YouTube was full of like cat videos. So I remember like YouTube was this building in a place called San Bruno, close to San Francisco. Maybe you've been there.
Yeah.
And then all the videos out there used to be like people taking small snapshots of their cats, really. And those were some of the most popular content. So the internet has obviously evolved. And this is not that long ago, actually. This is like, 2006, 7. So if you see even a place which is believed to be as transformative as San Francisco, 10 years ago wasn't that evolved, right? And I think we sort of uniquely live in a time wherein because of the amount of capital it takes to start new ideas, an appreciation for risk-taking, right? And I call it sort of the 3 F's of building a company, which is funny, which is like, it always takes a fool to build a company, right? It takes another fool to buy the stuff that you're building, and it actually takes another fool to fund it, right? And which is very interesting. So all of these vectors were actually appropriately available.
Your investors are not listening to this one, huh?
They're fine. They're kind of aware of who we are. But I'm saying, I'm similarly calling myself one. So the ecosystem and its depth was actually available in San Francisco, Tel Aviv, Shanghai, and whatnot. I think the beauty is that today that ecosystem is available in India as well, right? It's completely okay to build great companies and have a great vision. It's actually okay for people to buy some of that stuff and be early adopters and come work for you. Equally, it is actually absolutely appropriate for somebody to actually fund your vision, right? And, 2014, I didn't want to be an Indian who left India and went to the US and look at a phenom called what's happening here and miss the boat, right? So it was actually some of those inspirations and ideation. Of course, running into my co-founder was, a chance journey, and things come together because of serendipity. But once when you actually recognize the opportunity, you sort of jump at it.
I totally agree. So, he's in fact invested in more startups. While he's a great entrepreneur, but he's also actually a great investor. So he's done some of the startups which have today become big unicorn organizations themselves. So my question to you is, and incidentally, he's raised about 500 CR very recently for his startup. So he himself probably is moving very closely, inching towards becoming a unicorn too. But my question is, when you're a startup, and I said it before, that when you're a startup, you're really very passionate. You can actually be awake 24 hours a day and with no care to the world, you can just build your dreams. But when you're like funded to that an extent, it's a huge responsibility. And running on adrenaline and running on responsibility are two different things.
Sure.
It doesn't give, the spark might be huge, but the responsibility is bigger. So how do you sort of make sure that the monies that come in, the investor money that comes in, is wisely used? How does it get deployed? How do you evolve as an entrepreneur once the money starts moving into your organization, people start buying into your vision? What is it that changes?
And I think we were talking about this thing, and you were telling me your personal experience as well. And I think many of the folks here would be feeling that, given your companies are evolving, is that, think of a story, think of entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, the guy who founded Square and whatnot, Twitter, same guy. See, they at their times, they were playing two different roles. When they actually started their company, they were visionary and charismatic entrepreneurs, founders, who were able to create an idea, attract investors, their first set of people who, would come and work for them. As their ideas evolved and they capitalized and raised more money, a naturally great entrepreneur has to evolve, right? And you would have seen that in your role as well. I see it every day, which is you have to literally wake up every other day and fire yourself from the previous job that you're doing and be ready for the next job that you should be ready for. So I was telling you this anecdote about this gentleman who was sitting next to me on a flight, and I got thinking about that. So today Livspace has a little over 1,000 people, and I was telling something to this person who works for me the other day is, when was the last time that I ran a 1,000-person company? Never, right? So if you see the experience that someone like me brings to the table, when you're actually facing an opportunity that is multi-tens of billions of dollars wide, could arguably take phenomenal amount of capital, and can inshallah one day be tens of thousands of people, you have to realize that the responsibility vested in you because of a vision that you or your co-founder or a bunch of people came up with is so enormous that you have to continuously invest in your own journey. So you have to upgrade yourself every day. You have to have a team that is able to upgrade yourself every day. And you shouldn't be afraid of failures and all that. And I think you said a great thing, which is great startups one day become great companies. Facebook is a 15-year-old company,
Correct.
Only as of yesterday. And look at where it is right now. And guess who's the founder and the CEO? It's the same guy. Now, this person has evolved massively. His team has evolved massively. But the velocity of thinking, the vision that he created, and his sort of deep ability in thinking beyond the infinite, it just hasn't changed. So you have to maintain those three things.
So what is your current role?
I'm the CEO of my company. But and the company is 3.5 years old really in its evolution, in a true sense that we went to market. So you're still setting a lot of the vision work for the company. And as I say, companies that evolve on an every day, every week, every month basis really are the ones that are ready for the future. So there's a lot of your role which is still like the founder that you were, right? So you still continue to inspire, paint the big picture, make sure that people are continue to be invested and excited about the idea that you came up with. It's funny that for those of you who are doing their own companies, you almost every day have to wake up and be the most excited person in your company, right? And it has a huge emotional toll on you, obviously. So there is sort of the dark side of being an entrepreneur. But as your companies scale and they start doing well and organization evolves and new people come in, new cultures come in, I think your role evolves from being a founder to a CEO, right? And a CEO is about, there's something called fiduciary responsibility. So you as a CEO report into the board that actually have lots of great investors, and they've actually invested with lots of money behind you. So you have the responsibility to actually represent the board well. You have the responsibility to drive returns, because partly they're shareholders of the company. You have to make sure that you actually uphold the values and culture of a company. You also own a business plan that you have to deliver to, right? So your role actually massively evolves from someone who was actually able to create the 0 to 1 spark in a company and excite people, to actually someone who's not going to take it from 10 to 100 and, God willing, one day infinity. Very, very different roles. So I have the onerous task of actually playing to both these roles right now.
Yeah. And you're doing it quite well, let me tell you that. So, you're an investor yourself. So when you meet startups, what are the 3 pieces of advice that you give to them? When you fund them, or when you mentor them, or when you sort of tell them what should be the way forward. And it's something also that you believe in strongly. It's not just for them, but you believe in. It's your value system.
I think first and foremost, it's really the founder's belief in the idea, right? I mean, if you aren't the most passionate person behind that idea and you haven't thought it through, then it will never come across. So that's one. And believe you me, the startup industry has evolved massively, right? So the strength and the capability of entrepreneurs and their ideas is no longer the way it was in 2015 in this part of the world. The first and foremost advice is make sure that you've done substantial amount of thinking, before you're actually out in market. That's one. I think, look, things will go wrong. Things will evolve. So as an investor who's sort of seen the market a little bit, and I've invested in the US and Southeast Asia, in India, quite a lot, to have seen that it's really, really, really the team that you invest in. And there's a rule of investing which says, great markets, great ideas, great teams, right? So it's almost like great markets, somewhat of an okay idea, great team, you'll actually invest, right? But phenomenal market, phenomenal execution, weak team, you'll never invest, right? And I've seen that time and again between ideas that have worked out well and ideas that haven't. The third thing is the most important, which is phenomenal teams build phenomenal companies. They will figure it out, right? So I'd say that's the second, which is believe in yourself, believe in your idea, but believe in great teams. And third, which is very, 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 very important, it's speed. So I think teams that are able to develop and take their ideas and test them in the market at the fastest pace and learn and go along are really the ones that have succeeded. I mean, you've seen it time and again, right? Look at Oyo and the innovation that they're driving. Look at Ola, Uber, Zilingo. I mean, these are all great examples of entrepreneurs that had great founding teams, and they were actually able to test their ideas enough in the market, and they were actually able to kind of grow beyond. Yeah, I'd say those 3.
So I'm going to ask you this one final question.
Sure.
And this is in interest to everybody who's present in this room. So your business model was based on aggregating the home designing community.
Sure.
To sort of get them together, and they could actually build instead of just thinking in silos and small bits, they could all think together on a great platform. Today, a lot of small businesses in India, medium businesses in India are trying to transform. They're trying to go through the digital journey, which is about building digital commerce. They're trying to get new ways of learning. So what is it that you would want to tell them as they go along this journey? What is it that you think that you have tangibly done for the designer community, which everybody could learn from?
Yeah, actually, you'd be surprised. So I was actually in another conference in the morning, radically different from this setup, and I think I'm overdressed for this occasion. It was a CREDI event, it's a government event, but the messages are so consistent, right? That whether it was a developer event, so builder community, that's sort of relevant to me, or the question that you sort of asked. If you see what technology and internet has done is really, really, really make the small business and the small business owner very successful, right? So whether it is an app developer on Android, or it is a design partner in our community, or is it an Ola driver, or it's a supplier on Flipkart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Adoption of those platforms has really brought in new business, steady state payment, no loss of margin, a lot of trust building. So my request and inherent appeal to businessmen who are sort of in the smaller and medium size is really adoption of technology. And adoption of technology, time and again, it's been proven that that's the transformative engine, that'll actually leapfrog them. Because today, as a small business owner, and I've sort of seen that many times over, that neither do you have the power of access to buy, right, or negotiate and whatnot. What technology actually enables is actually weeds away the crap in the value chain, right? And it actually puts you up front and center where the actual war is happening, in front of the customer, right? So my request is, and my appeal is, that as a small and medium business owner, it's actually okay to go through the transformation of utilizing and adopting the most relevant technology to your business, right? Whether it's ERP or Amazon, you know, or what I do, or so forth and so on. But I think that is really the path to freedom. That's really what's growing India. That's really what grew the US. It's actually the ability of technology and the internet to make the small business person like really successful.
Great, super. Great talking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. And I do feel that you got the next story to be written right there in India, and all the very best to you.
Thank you.
As we grow forward, we love to see great things coming from your stable, an organization becoming much, much bigger than what it is today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me over.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you, Anuj. That was really insightful. And now let's up the ante. I would like to invite our soon-to-be unicorns for a panel discussion on making of future leaders. I would now like